Welcome back to Basin Motorsports. So today we're going to continue on working on the 86 hatchback restoration. So you guys saw in the last episode that I am finally done with the 86 engine reseal. It took me 3 months, but hey, we got it done. So what I'm going to do today is start getting the front end of this taken apart so that I can clean up the K-member, steering, probably redo the front brakes, which is going to be fluid flush, plus I believe, looking at it, I'm going to need new pads for it. Probably have to turn the rotors to match those too. And then basically strip everything out so I can clean it with some simple green, get it nice and fresh, and then we'll drop this engine back in, hopefully in the next couple weeks with the transmission, and get this thing back to a driving car. So right now I got to kind of do some cleanup. I need to get the engine basically out of the way. I'm going to wipe up this area, get it all cleaned out, and I'll put a drop cloth in. Now the reason for the drop cloth is it's going to be greasy and cleaner getting on the floor, and I'd rather put it on a drop cloth that's easier to wipe up, and at the end I can just kind of wad it all up and throw it away, and that way I don't have to worry about trying to re-scrub my concrete floors. So engine's got to move. We're going to get it all cleaned up, drop cloth in, and then we're going to get down and start taking apart all the front suspension and brakes. Alright, so with the drop cloth in place, engine out of the way, I can now get into the front suspension. This car still has all of the brake fluid in place, I guess. I never drained it out because when I was moving it back around, I wanted brakes still on the car. I can tell you, just breaking this loose, I'm just letting gravity kind of drain it out, but if you can tell on camera, this should be kind of like a clear, maybe a light caramel color at best, but I can tell you right now, I don't know when the last time this was changed, but it's been a while. It's been a while. This stuff is like a burnt chocolate color almost. It's not good stuff. So right now all I'm doing is just letting it drain out with gravity, basically. Cracked open the caliper, went and pushed a couple times on the pedal inside to make sure I started getting push out that way, and then we will get all of the fluid out of each caliper. That way I know that the front system is pretty void of any fluid, and then whatever falls on the ground obviously hits the drop cloth. I can just wipe it up, not have to worry about tracking it in or getting it all over my clothes and my hands or anything. So once we do that, at that point it's just kind of dismantling everything. Taking the rotor off, taking the dust cap off, taking the nut off, take that out, take the spindle off, front suspension, all that stuff. Everything involved with a K-member has got to come out, steering shaft, and then we're going to clean everything and start putting everything back in before the engine, transmission, and all the other pieces go back in to get this back to a driving car that has no interior or front fenders. So with that taken off, looking at these pads, these are a little bit better than I thought. I had thought, well, maybe. We'll say maybe at this point on the pads. They are pretty close to getting down to the wear indicator, the squeakers. They are going to touch the rotors. So I may end up replacing these with, I'm going to say probably new stuff. I can already feel a ridge coming up here to the edge. You can already tell that these have been turned before and are wore down, so I'll probably have to get these measured before I get a decision made, but probably go with new pads and rotors on this boy and new fluid, which will make it that even better. So I can tell you this is well greased right here because there's almost grease oozing out of it. So I'll get this cleaned off, get this nut taken out. I already took the cotter pin out. This rotor will come off, and then basically you're left with spindles. So I can then work on taking the tie rod loose from the spindle, and then worry about taking the spindle off of here just by supporting it there. Make sure that spring doesn't push the arm all the way down once I take off this spindle loose. All right, with a little bit of elbow grease, we got everything taken apart. Now the springs in here had to come down pretty low to get them out, but these are the factory springs. And of course they had a little pop at the end, even if you get them all the way down, they pop out of there. So thankfully I've got a Maximum Motorsports tool to be able to put them back in, but everything else, other than just being greasy, came out pretty easily. No big challenges, I guess. Do need to get a ball joint separator. I'll have to buy one of those to get this off, and that way I can really get everything cleaned up before I put it back together. But everything else came out easy. Brakes, caliper, brake line I should say, sway bar, spring, tie rod end, everything else came out very easily. So thankful for that. Now it's just a matter of probably setting it aside over here, kind of get it out of the way, set it out organized, and I'll kind of show you that at the end if I want to. And then we got to go to the other side, get it all out. Hopefully everything is going to come out nice and easy, no major hiccups, and I think it's just going to be greasy. So I'm wearing gloves. As you can see, my hands are never this clean, but I'm wearing gloves today, thankfully. And let's go get the other side out. We'll see if we can get this K member out today. All right, well that was, I will admit, a lot easier than I had planned it to be. But here is everything out of the 86. So obviously the engine is right there, some tools. And it seems like I had to bring about every tool out to get this done. Front suspension there. You can look at the steering rack. Now this, still haven't decided if I'm going to replace that or try to clean it. It doesn't leak as far as I know, and it still worked fine, it seemed like. So I'm probably just going to try and clean it and see if it'll clean up before I decide to replace it. Here's the K member. And it's greasy. It's greasy. So everything else looks okay. I'll probably change maybe the ball joints there and work on that, but it looks okay other than it needs to be cleaned. And then you have the engine bay. It's all cleaned out now. Everything is good. Everything's out of the way. So now all I need to do is get out a lot of degreaser and get in there and get it cleaned up. So after getting all that out, really, I can see that the end is in sight, other than, yes, I've got to spend probably a couple weeks cleaning, and more cleaning. Thankfully, I think this is going to be a lot easier. There's no moving parts to reseal or anything else, so it's a matter of scraping off all the grease. Probably, I may get off as much grease as I can here on a drop cloth, take that off, and then probably take it outside, take everything outside and pressure wash it. So I'm just trying to prevent spreading grease all over my property, my driveway and that. So I think if I just do that, get off as much, scrape off as much as I can in here, I can then take the rest outside and probably use some Simple Green or something that's biodegradable. Use a pressure washer, give it a real good soaking on a nice day, and then just kind of leave it to dry the rest of the day. Unfortunately, I can't with a car because there's no suspension. So anyway, that's going to be pretty easy to do. I think everything in there is pretty much, it's probably just going to be a squirt bottle, scrub pad, wiping it down, and I really don't think there's going to be a lot of trouble. And the great thing is, I might probably change this drop cloth underneath it, put a new fresh one in there or one that's not greasy, and I can go right in there with my seat and just scrub and just spin and scrub and spin and scrub and spin and scrub, and it will be easy. There's nothing else in the way. So I took out sway bar, everything else, so it's going to be easy to do, and I won't bore you with that other than just know it stinks. So if you guys get this deep into a project and you feel somewhat defeated and aggravated with it, it's okay. I've done the same. I've been dragging tail on getting this thing done, but I got too many other things in my head that I want to work on, so I've got to get this out of the way. That was my commitment to my wife and to myself, and of course to you guys, that I would finish this car prior to it getting out of here so I can get back on the wide body and some other projects. So point of note, I did put up on Instagram a comment or a picture this week with some prices. Now, some of you guys have asked, how much do you want for the car and everything else. I threw out there $2,500 if you come get it before I took it all apart in the rest of the pieces where it was. Well, that's done. I got to put it back together now because you can't even get this car out of here other than a crane. So if I put it back together and made it a running, driving car with basically nothing else fixed, no vinyl wrap, everything else, it's going to be $3,000. And I'm still debating on if I want to do that. That means the gray that I had for this, the matte titanium, would be the next version of the wide body because I like the color anyway. So kind of debating on that, still not sure. And after a couple days of thinking about it, I'm kind of declining that. But if I did the vinyl wrap but not fix the interior, we're looking at about $5,500. And if I fix all the interior and everything else that is needed to restore this back to factory condition, or as best as possible as a resto mod, you're going to be looking at about $7,500. So that's where I'm at today. Now those prices are probably going to change, but this is where you can hit me with it on right now. If you want to buy it, you can put your name in on it. That's the prices I have in my mind. Otherwise, we'll see where it ends up. It's all going to be depending upon how deep I go and how much I spend on buying parts. So I know there's some sales going on that I'll probably look through and get some sales together, see if I can get some parts on a discounted rate. But otherwise, it's going to be what it's going to be. And in the end, hell, who knows? Maybe I won't even sell it. I'll just keep it and drive it around, go get coffee and ice cream in it. My wife might actually like one. She doesn't like the wide body. Too much for her. Perfect for me. So that's it, guys. Thanks for stopping by today. Kind of uneventful taking the suspension out of this, but for once, I'm thankful that nothing jumped up and bit me or smacked me in the face. So that's it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.